Thank you. All right, so today's session is all about the core competency number 8. This is my very final session on the series of core competencies here, but there are other coaches in the level 3 that will be sharing as well, right? So this core competency number 8 here, it is all about facilitating clients' growth, and I would like to see it as partnering with a client to transform in learning and insight into actions. And this is how we promote clients' autonomy in the coaching process itself. So the entire growth process is very much necessary. Theoretically, we know it's necessary, but there's a lot of intricacy that I would like to share today. That's why I'm calling this as the art of transforming from insights into action. And this is very, very crucial stage, especially towards the end of the entire coaching sessions or entire coaching engagement. So this particular topic is very, very close to my heart because a lot of coaches always come and ask me, Charlene, I'm actually finishing up my last session in my package with my client. What's next here? Should I renew them? Should I actually close the sessions? How does the closing supposed to look like? We all have learned in the coaching classes that closing in the coaching session is to really asking the client to really anchoring in what's your action point, what you're going to do before we see each other again in the next session. But how might the entire closing actually looks like when we are trying to facilitate the client's growth beyond the coaching session? So this is the entire genesis of today's sessions here. Okay, so I'm just going to kickstart this with my usual showcase of the ICF Core Competencies here on facilitates clients' growth. And there are 9 bullet points here. We're going to go through each and every one of them. In the remaining slides, you'll be seeing a cut out of the respective sessions, the respective sections here, so that you can actually refer that as well. Okay, so just take a look at it if you can, and take a moment to go through that. You'll get a chance to see that in details later on as well. Okay. So what is it all about when we're talking about growth? It's a process and it's a progress as well. So the entire core reframing here I would like to take a look at is to allow the client to see the possibility and literally, visually in their mind and in their whole body and whole self as well, that they can see the future self and they can have the urge and ability to step into it. So that actually comes from how coaches invite the client to step into it. Because transformation, we can actually say it out in our day-to-day conversations, but it's harder to do if they can't see it, and it's or even harder to do if they can't step into it. So in its essence itself, the growth itself is they have the ability to step into it, because this is how the coaching momentum is actually built. It's not on how many sessions, but it's about sharing and showing them the transformations they cannot unsee, because that's when the whole momentum will start to kick in. That's when I say that earlier on, closing of the session is very key crucial step when the client is in the coaching sessions, which will be inside the 8.9 of these core competencies. All right. So Nisha, do feel free to stop me to ask any questions if you might have. I would love to actually address that in the midpoint too. Okay. Right. So the entire 9 core competency here, I am rewriting it, rephrasing it into different form, so that we can actually have the clarity. Let's take a look at them one by one. All right. Right. So this is a picture of how the underwater sea looks like, right? If you have diving, snorkeling experience before, you will be seeing a bunch of fishes and the corals, and the moment that you want to catch it, they're just going to float away. If you are seeing some fish or some starfish that you want to catch, if you don't catch it, it will just float away, right? So this is how it feels like in coaching. When we are working with a client to create new awareness, we take a look at what is their worldview and also their behaviors. Because at the end of the day, we want to drop them some insights, but there's pitfalls, right? And I'm sharing in a format of pitfalls and also anchoring move in the subsequent slides as well. When we are working with a client to integrate new awareness, And a client may say, for example, oh, I never know about this. Oh, I'm seeing something new here. Oh, actually, I realized blah, 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 whatever it is. And in that realization, how we actually anchor in to actually plunge it down to the ground to make the client feel that, hey, this is something I am embodying it. And therefore I can actually have a better awareness is really asking a different set of questions. By that here, there's two examples. Hey, that I see your feeling is very significant about that experience that you are experiencing. How might this shift the way that you see this going forward pertaining to the client issues? Okay. And one of the questions I love to ask is, where do you feel that in your body, right? How would it look like if you lived through this understanding, this new understanding? Because creating a visuals and anchoring it in the bodily sensations allow the client to stay grounded, not just an image that is good to have. When we are having the image as of good to have, something is going to float away, right? It's very fluffy. It's like a cloud that's floating away. So this particular core competency is talking about to integrate the new awareness. The keyword here is to integrate so that it doesn't fly away, right? Some of the pitfalls here is we can see the client gets it, but in order to help them to get it further, that it's actually the act of facilitating the growth. So you ask those anchoring moves kind of question that helps the client to get grounded. It goes beyond the client knows it, and I see the client knows it, but I also want the client to feel that in their body. So this is my chains of thoughts as I'm actually coaching as well. Okay. So I'll add on questions like this to actually anchoring it. So then the next two core competency here is partnering with the client to design the goals, actions, and accountability measures that integrate and expand new learning, and also acknowledging the support the client needs in giving back them the power to design the goals, actions, and methods of accountability. When we are in the journey with a client, and a lot of coaches feel the urge to rescue. Oh my God, I see the client is in this way, that way, and I would love to help, right? Let me give you the solutions. I think this is the way that it works best. And we as a coach, training coaches especially, will need to hold on to the urge and go like, okay, this is directing. This is very giving the client the solutions, right? How do we change it from that consultant track is what I call it, and noticing the part of you or the client is saying that I'll try harder. I need to think about it because all these things are not going anywhere. How do we instill curiosity together with this two core competency to allow the client to design their goals in their own power that actually feels like it's them that is actually designing it, which is essentially this is what coaching is for. I love to ask questions in the co-creation way with curiosity. So what does this goal means to you, right? And why must we have it now? How is this goal significant, especially when during the goal setting phase? And how would this change the way that you see your situation, right? So how do you know? Basically, those questions is revolving around how do you know? Challenge the client. How do you know that you have succeeded? How do you know that you already have the confidence, right? Nisha, have you ever faced into this kind of situations before? Just want to check in here.
Yeah, the first one, the consultant trap. Actually, it happens with me. I don't know about others, but for me,
Mm.
I feel in the initial session only that it's very important for me that the client will get the solution by the end of the session.
Yeah, yeah,
And we try that when we move out from this, he or she have something to go with, like they will not leave the session empty handed. So
yeah,
especially I feel that pressure on me that I will give something valuable to my client.
yeah. So absolutely, thanks for sharing that. Because I want to give something valuable to client. That challenges the coaches to take a look at what value, whose value, what is valuable of the coaching session, right? If we are going to define that the value comes from me, myself as a coach, then I'm trapped in that rescuer pattern, right? Because I'll be more responsible for the client to have the outcome of the session than the client themselves. That actually pick up the autonomy, and it creates dependency actually to the coach, right? And at the very beginning of the sessions, I will say the very first thing to a client, this relationship is not going to last very long. Depends on how far you want to go with me here. Because at the end of the day, we are going to stay apart, and then you're going to progress in your own growth itself. I'm just part of your journey as a coach, but I'm not there to kind of like be with you all the time. How about you taking back the autonomy to actually create that for yourself? One part of the thing here is, if the creation energy comes from the coach, possibly is in the rescuer pattern. If the creation energy comes from the client, it's the autonomy for them. Think about it. Does it make sense? Right? And sometimes we, at the closing sessions itself, we impose certain accountability, right? It's like saying that, hey, what would you like to have? Weekly check-in, bi-weekly check-in. And the way that I actually do it is I keep it really flexible, because different client has different needs. Yes, I do have the fixed amount of coaching sessions in the package, but however, that depends on how far the client can move as well. Is it weekly necessary? Is it bi-weekly, or is it a monthly check-in? Depends on the client's need, rather than I impose the accountability on that. Even though if they ended up with an action point and they're going to decide how many times they want to practice certain practice, how frequent it is, what is the duration of it, right? And if we're going to impose that itself, we're kind of like doing it for them, not with them, okay? So this 8.2 and 8.3 itself. Let me move further. Right. So when we are in the supporting role of the client, it's very different from helping, right? Support and help, these two words have a very distinctive meaning. Support sounds like I am running together with you, but I'm not running for you. Helping, it's I'm going to see what you need. Maybe I'll give you a push, a little bit, like literal push, that I want you to succeed more than what you really want. Right? That's really helping. So when we support a client in really identifying potential results or learning from identified action steps, and think about it from the support perspective, is we want to create a feeling of the future for them, right? When a goal is not achieved, the journey feels like a failure to the client. It is. But however, there's always a lesson learned. I have a lot of clients come into the session says that, oh my God, the session is coming. I have not practiced anything that we agreed in the last sessions. What do? We're just going to, step back 2 steps and then restart again. And sometimes we will think that it's always a smooth sailing sessions for a client, but it's not, right? That's called blind optimism. For example, if client says that, hey, I didn't practice anything before I come into the session, so I feel so ashamed and all these things, that itself, and you come and in contrast, you come into the sessions with a lot of optimism, and you go like, hey, actually this is really pulling us backwards, right? So create that learning opportunity at that point of time about what happened, where are we right now, recheck in and recheck in, because this is really beyond the outcome. If let's just say the outcome is being designed to achieve it within a month, right? And the client backtrack, and does it really means that the timeline gets stretched? May not be, okay? And the client can they sprint further in the midpoint? Possibly. So what is the best thing could happen in this moment when they come into the session, and in their thought process about their conversations, what might be the most important lesson that the client can learn? So those are the learning pivot point to allow them to feel, hey, I actually see a possibility of the future, right? Because the client is not really buying the time, they're buying the end result. And there's no saying that if they're engaged for a month, that they need to finish it by the milestone. There will be sometimes they sprint faster. There will be sometimes they take a 2 step backwards. And how do we actually make them feel that there is a possibility of the future, even though you backtrack 2 steps? Okay, this is the genesis of this entire word, support the client. Okay, any questions so far at this point? Just want to pause and check it. Okay, nope. Oh, this is my favorite part. Okay, if I am going to say that sometimes coaches try to be really practical, right? And at the time, we need to be also the dreaming partner with the client. And there's a lot of times that when we see barriers comes up, challenges comes up, and in order to protect the enthusiasm, some coaches actually doesn't say the truth, scaring or worrying the client will not trust them, will not work on their goal, will not this and that, right? Because in the midst of inviting a client to move forward, there will be barriers, right? The barriers is challenges and roadblocks that we have to sort it out with the client. How do we invite the client to come and take a look at that, right? When I say that becoming the practical partner is the practicality part of the accountability, and becoming a dreaming partner is actually allowing possibility to happen. And we got to move in these 2 directions here a little bit. And we always want to do a reality check. Here, how are you in this side? How might you want to navigate these challenges? And then we go front and back, front and back. This is not about pessimism, but it's really expanding the resource pool itself, because beyond me itself, right? I want to build up a network of support within the client's reach, right? Family and friends, colleagues and also bosses, and depends on their coaching topic itself. Because that reduces the dependency only relying on a coach, but they are able to find out their resources. I put a picture here about this little toy. I'm not so sure whether you'll see that before. Let me stop share for a while because I wanted to show this part. This is a toy, right? Because when we are becoming the practical partner, we want everything to be intact, right? And when we become a dreaming partner, we want it to actually expand. As we're expanding, sometimes the client go like, oh no, this is not what I want. This is actually, I feel it's so challenging. And how can you ask a question to expand the possibility? And when we are actually anchoring in the types of actions, and we might want to be a little bit more practical towards it, right? And allowing the possibility to happen, we need to actually expand again. So this is dreaming state, this is a practical state. This is dreaming state, this is a practical state, right? If you notice that it's like a breathing in when your lung is expanding, out when your actually lung is contracting. Every single thing we have to dance to and front and back, just like this toy here. It's a very fun thing to explore. Okay? Any questions so far at this point? I'll share my
So
screen.
I really like that slide and the last question where you did mention about a question that how we can support.
Yeah.
And beyond me, what are the people and the tools who can support you?
Yeah.
And that's really specifically with me. I really feel that this is challenging for the client because you are challenging them on every question.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And especially at the towards the last few 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes of the coaching sessions, when we're
Yes.
coming to anchoring in what is that accountability itself, is expansion and contraction kind of process. They need to expand to look into their resources without, imagine my hand is not here, the object here can still expand, which is the autonomy of the client themselves. They need to be able to expand it on their own whenever challenges appears, right? Sometimes the expansion itself is guided during the coaching sessions, but it's beyond it. So that is a real growth itself. Without me, the client can still grow. That is wow, to me, it's an ultimate partnership kind of format that I love, right? So when we try to anticipate the journey, like what you say, how can we help them to build their network support systems beyond coaching, right? Because we don't live their life for them. It's really very necessary.
Yes.
Okay, let me go on next. Yeah, when we are connecting the dots for the client itself, right? We are always partnering the client to summarize the learning insights within or between the sessions, partners with the client to also integrate learning and sustain progress itself through the coaching engagement. So take a look at it from one single coaching sessions and a multiple coaching session perspective here. Sometimes we assume that the client remembers what has they said, what have they done over, let's just say you're towards the midpoint of the coaching engagement. We expect the client remembers everything, but it's actually not, right? The client doesn't. And sometimes their busyness sweep over the entire process of being conscious and making choices with a lot of decision-making process as well. And they forgot, right? We lose track and we want to give them a one size summary, right? And without inviting the client to actually making sense of what I've just said and also maybe adding or correcting. So this is one of the pitfall. So in terms of anchoring move for between the sessions and in the session itself, these are the few things that I love to say, right? Let me reflect back what I've heard, and then I just want to make sure that I have your understanding right. You can change it after you hear me out. So this is what you say, blah, 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 blah. Right? Is there anything that you would like to add or anything I said that doesn't resonate with you? So we invite them to change what we said we understood. Okay. So, and to a broader work, which they have as a multiple series of sessions, we always want to invite, previous sessions, conversation, previous sessions, conversations that link to the current session conversations. Okay, just want to double check. Are you all hearing me right? Because I see an internet break.
Yeah, I observed that.
Okay.
The important thing where, Charlene, I need to
Yes.
mention here that in this pitfall, specifically
Yeah.
this one way somebody, I really noticed this pattern with me from in last couple of sessions, or you can say two,
Ah.
three sessions, that I am summarizing for my client,
Ah.
and when I ask him to summarize the session for him or for her,
Ah.
I am not satisfied with the summary.
Oh,
Like, okay, it's
I am
more
not
that we
satisfied with
discussed.
it.
Yeah. So it's like I thought that there is more that we discovered, right? And you are just
Yeah,
sharing
yeah,
two, three
yeah,
lines or two, three
yeah,
words. So it's like,
yeah.
what should I do? Shall I did this for them?
Okay. A few way, depending on whether you're ending the session very quickly or do you have a little bit more time to actually summarizing that, right? The client may say 3 points, and in your mind goes like, oh, there's 5 points there, two more points, important things that you say you have aha
Yes,
moment, but you forgot about it. Then,
correct.
okay, here's how I would do it. Oh, okay, I hear you say this, 1, 2, 3 points. And then go like, oh, okay, interesting. Right. Can I actually also remind you about other points that we have talked about in today's sessions? Is that okay? Invite for permissions. Okay. This is related to other core competencies. We
Mm-hmm.
always want to check in if I can say more things, right? Oh, we actually
Okay.
also talk about the other 2 points just now about this, about that. Then the client go like, oh yeah, I forgot. You see, that's when I say that we don't assume the understanding from the client.
Yes,
And if we notice certain things that is a gap, it's always good to put it up and let's just see the client feels aha again. If he doesn't, okay, that's fine, right? It's the choice itself. When we put things on the table, this is what I always say, tell my clients who are who doesn't who felt not comfortable, especially those first time working with me, because I tend to be very direct in terms of putting things on the table. I just say that I'm just putting things on the table for us to really take a look at it. And how do we want to put the puzzle together later? Doesn't matter, but just surface things up a little bit, right? Not going around the bushes and then not answering my question directly. And then I say that there's 5, you say there's 3, that kind of thing. So it's just surfacing up. So you notice that two things, in your case here, is the things that surface out on the table, you notice 2 pieces drop on the floor. And they go like, hey, do you notice that actually something is missing on the table here? There's 2 pieces
yeah,
on the floor. Let me pick it up here. Do you remember this? Do you remember
yeah.
that? Right? This is how I actually connect the dots. And the way they connect the dot for multiple sessions is also going back to the previous sessions. That's when you keep the coaching notes is very important, right?
But
I
but
realize that,
Charlene,
yeah, yes.
But
Yes,
Charlene, can
Nisha.
we do that? Can we do that as per ACC competencies or ICF rules that
For which
we
one?
will bring, that we will summarize the rest of the things which left
No, we
unnoticed
don't.
by the
Okay.
client?
Things that you notice about a client, usually I will share it in a form of like a summary, a paraphrase, or synthesize the whole conversations by just checking in with a permission question. It's like, hey, I noticed that you say about 3 things. And I also noticed something that we talked through today that could be also equally important. Can I share that? It's asking
Hmm.
permission from the client.
Okay.
Right? Can I share that? The client will go like, oh yes. And then you share that. Um, there's another bullet point, another bullet point. This is what I noticed as well. How do you feel? You integrate into the entire conversation. Then the client go like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Maybe. Or maybe the client will shift their state as well from the aha moment earlier on, shift it to like, this is actually something that not a big deal. Okay, that's fine too. There's a request, there's a response.
Hmm. Okay.
So long the request and the response is completed, it is a complete state. Nothing is left hanging. You get what I mean? When nothing is left hanging, nothing floated away. On the first competency just now, if you let it hanging, things will float away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Does it
you.
make sense? Does it make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you.
Right. So perhaps the 2 bullet points, which is related to the third anchoring move questions here, the 2 bullet points, let's just say the client missed out. You can also bring it up in a way that it's, hey, we have also talked about this, right? What might be the one way that you can bring this part of the insights into your daily life too? That the client says that in their awareness, right? So you can change the questions to ask in a very open-ended way about certain bullet points that you notice. What about point A? How might you also want to integrate this into your daily life that the client missed out on the point A? Does it make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I hope this makes sense. Okay, let's
Mm-hmm.
move on a little bit first. 8.8, right? We always want to acknowledge the client's progress and success because naming what you have witnessed, this is exactly the question you asked earlier on. What if the client missed out certain thing? This is something I witnessed as well, right? It is not focusing on what's not working in this case. It's more like making it specific and make the acknowledgement lands as well. How does a specific acknowledge looks like, right? For example, in your situation, I'm going to change the example here from a screen. In a situation that I acknowledge that you also had a great realization just now, right? That actually tells me something about you, which is blah, blah, blah. You see how I actually use that to create a little bit more awareness about things that the client has shared earlier on? That also address the part of you that feels like a little bit, hey, how come the client is missing out this bullet point? On top of working on that part of you that, this part client shouldn't have missed out, right?
Yeah.
So what of this key move is, what progress have you noticed in yourself? Is also asking the coach yourself beyond asking the client. Okay, you may have noticed certain progress in the client. This build your coaching self-efficacy, but it's also building the client self-efficacy in their context. Because in that way, the clients feel seen and validated, you feel seen and validated too. Because they experience you as someone who really being with them, celebrating their success, not just analyzing the problem. Because acknowledging client progress and success from the 2 points that they missed it out is also a great way to bring in awareness at the same time for yourself. Okay, this is exactly naming what you have witnessed here. On the last part here is really partnering with the client to close the session. Now, this is the part that I want to spend a little bit more time here is when the closing happens doesn't mean that the relationship ended, or it also doesn't mean that the coaching engagement is ended and just that's it. Beyond the most important key takeaway from today's conversations, and how do we actually make it a little, we stretch it a little bit further, right? Into a launching point again. A growth, when something is closed, something is open up in the future. And that's when I call it the launching point. And if we focus on the launching point, it kind of never close. It just launch it and sit with the uncertainty for a while and take action towards it. So closing of a session is not really an ending. But if we abruptly end it and leave the client drifting and it's not grounded, and something is going to float away again, right? It's like the fish that you saw when you're diving and you try to catch it. It doesn't catch it, it's swim away. So intentional close actually creates a momentum that deepens the trust and it opens up possibility in the closing itself. Closing is not closing. Closing is to open again. Okay. So for example, I may before that, this point here is very important because I do peer coaching as well in my early days, and I've seen so many coaches not able to close this thing properly. And I have developed my own style and own way to close this thing. Is to really check in with the client where you at in the conversations, right? The client say, oh, this is my awareness. Okay, what is your action point? Accountability. We can ask those questions, and then subsequently also anchoring in what happened if any parts of you come up and sabotage the whole plan. And a client would think about, oh, this part of me, that part of me, right? And then what are you going to do about that? That is actually an opening for the second episode of learning. That is a continuing forwarding momentum. To help the client to anticipate, there will be some parts of the entire context to come out and sabotage the whole plan, right? So this is one way. And another way of asking that is, how do you know that you have taken this practice as a meaningful step before we meet the next time? Or another question is like, what would you anticipate to share with me in our next session itself, that you find it that you have made a progress? That helps the client to have a little bit of certainty, not launching into the space, but have a little bit of certainty in terms of their destination. Because client will leave the sessions with clarity, but not confusing. What should I do? Where am I going? Yeah, this is a great coaching sessions, but I have my accountability, plan and my action point. But I go like, it's okay. I can do it next time. I can do it next time. When you know that the next time when they see you, nothing is done. Yeah.
Yes.
Nisha, you want to ask a question?
Yes, I can really relate to this that it happens that client can feel that pressure and they were like nothing is moved from our first session to this session.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So going through the 9 competency lines here, line by line, I just want to ask, perhaps, in these particular sessions, what has become very apparent for you in this particular core competency that you can take it forward in practicing?
So for me, I really like the way you mentioned that the closing of session is not closing, it's like a launching pad
Yeah.
for your next session for a week that they have. So it's
Okay.
not closing as such. I really like that how you can mention that with example. I really like, and I'm going to use the same in my session for sure, because
Okay.
I need to motivate my clients then that this is not a closing of session. This is an initial starting of you, that you are launching your space. You are upgrading yourself, right? So it's not closer. It's the starting. It's the initial phase
Mm,
of you,
mm,
right, with all those changes, a newer self of yourself. So that's the thing that I like. Second, yes, you solved this uh, mystery for me, that how I can ask my client to elaborate more or summarize more, because it happens that I do the rest of the things for my client. So yes,
mm,
that's the two important thing that I will take away from this, because this is something which I missed in my own sessions with my client.
Wow, you notice there's a gap there, yeah? And I'm
Yes.
seeing a gap here with you as you're mentioning the part of you about closing the launch pad. So how do you know that you have closed it properly? What are the things that you're looking at
So,
so that
yep,
you know?
I'm going to make some key points here with me, and I will make sure that I follow the same. So
Mm,
when I'm closing the conversation, I will check at my end that I am doing this as per the process.
very nice. So as per the process, you know that you follow the process, but how do you, okay, in what way that you want to see from your client or your own coaching competency so that you say that, oh, I've closed this session properly.
Yeah.
In what way that you want to see that from an evidence point of view?
So obviously the first part, then when the client summarize their takeaways, the accountability
Mm,
part and everything, it will give me actually idea that what they learned, what's a new learning happened during the session. And
mm.
according to that, um, I planned my next session with them,
Wow, very
asking
nice.
them that how they want me to check on them, what could be the space in between, what could be the bandwidth that they need supported, and what could be the intervals. Like they
Oh,
want me
yes.
to make a check on them weekly, bi-monthly,
Mm.
and that give me a very uh, better idea actually that how motivated and committed my client is.
Absolutely. That gives us clarity as a coach as well, because in the relationship, clarity beats everything else, right? If the client is clear about what they need to do, when I'm clear about what I need to do, so the relationship take a forwarding step as well. But that's very beautifully that you summarize it.
Yes.
Hmm, cool. Any question up to this point so far before I show the last slide?
No, I already asked many in between.
Great.
Challenge.
Yeah. In all my sessions here, I also take a look at, what is the essence of this entire facilitating the client growth itself. Because if we can help the client, support a client to live the future now, the client is, because the client is always deciding whether they want to continue the growth they have already begun. If they can continuously living the future now, then the growth is happening. The keyword here is living the future now,
Yeah.
right? And then they can see the possibility, and all these barriers, challenges will just gone for a while, right? Because they can become their own guide. That's how the coaching looks like. If they don't see me, doesn't need me one day, that'll be great. Yeah, great. So I'm at the very end of the sessions here. Any questions or clarifying thoughts
Yes,
that you might
I
want
just
to
reminded
bring?
one question that I really want to ask. Because you
Yeah.
mentioned at one slide that where in your body you can feel it,
Mm, that one.
right? I saw that in the slide where you can ask your client that if this is happening, where in the body you can feel that.
So I
Yep.
think
So
it's
I
the first
really
slide.
need to know, Charlene, that
Yes.
what we have to do when the client says that I'm not feeling it anywhere.
I'm not feeling it. Okay, there's a way to actually kind of like assess a client to see whether they are more inclined into their thinking zone, their emotion zone, or their bodily sensations. If they say I can't feel anything, right? I have a client who actually says this to me. She says that, Charlene, stop asking me feeling questions. I do not know how to answer you. I don't feel anything at all. I'm like, okay, great. So I say, so what do you think? And then the logic start to spin and all those things. And I realized that the feeling questions, I didn't ask it effectively. And ended up, I can't remember what word that I used that it land into the feeling space. So experiment different words with the client. It will align at the body state or the heart space or the thinking zone. A lot of clients very smart and, well, they're being trained to think. Sometimes we forgot to train how to feel. I think I asked along the line of, um, Okay, if it's a body questions, I will ask, reliving this particular episode, this context that you just shared with me, which part of your body feel tense the most? Or do you notice that you have not breathed by you talking so much just now? Did you notice that? They go like, oh yeah, I'm actually holding my breath. So that comes in the observations of the coach, even though through the little screens here, when they breathe, they will be in and out of the breath. When they're tense, their body start to slouch and sit in the very different directions. And this is how I actually bring up the conversations. Or when you hear whatever the client is saying, you yourself feel tense somewhere in your body. And
Yeah.
you can just say that, hey, listening to your story, my heart feels clenching. Insert that vocab, my heart feels clenching hearing you. And I go like, okay. And the client will focus their mind into the heart. And then they'll realize, oh yeah, my heart feels pain there too, maybe. And then for example, when I'm hearing you talking, I feel racing with you. Some client talk a lot, right? And then I say, my heart feels racing with you in that particular situation. Wow, it must be something challenging for you. I'm stating my own feeling and my own sensations. That is something that you can build up yourself. And when you're stating that, we are also inviting the client to feel in that space that we are feeling too. Because I'm part of the conversation too. Does that help, Nisha?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. This is how you can bring in awareness as well through your own awareness. Yeah. Where is the body question size? Hang on. Not this one. Not this one. I think this is the one. Right. So how do you know? At the end of the day, we always want to ask, how do you know which part of your body actually feels the most? Yeah. Yeah, this one. Where do you feel that in your body?
Yes. Yes.
How
Where do
does
you
it
feel
look
that
like?
in your body?
Yeah. Visuals help, but some of the client can't imagine things. Then they are maybe more well developed in feelings and bodily sensations. You can actually tap into those strengths of the client as well. Because when we're helping the client to integrate the new awareness, their own self has to be also integrated through their lens of how the world looks like. Making sense?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Right. So I hope the session has been really useful here for you. Perhaps based on what you have shared so far, what's one word that lands well with you today?
I am more motivated for my next session. Charlene.
Motivation. Okay, great.
Yes, yes. I know where I'm lacking actually. And I know now that how to overcome that.
Wow. Wow. You know
Yes.
what's one word landing with me right now hearing you is resilience. Keep going. You will reach there, Nisha.
Correct. Yes, yes. Keep going. It's fine.
Resilience, yes. And yeah, I wish you all the best in your coaching journey here with different types of clients and continue to build on the awareness. All right, cool.
Yes.
So I'm sharing my contacts here. If you would like to contact with me or the slides itself, I'm happy to share. Just give me a text and I'll share the slides. Okay, that's my
Yes.
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You can connect with me there too. Great. Very happy to have you here today. Yeah, I see you around your community.
Yeah. Thank you. Same
Thank
here.
you so much. Right.
Thank you, Charlene.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.